What I do know is there was a press conference last night that was held in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was originally supposed to be at 6:30, then it was supposed to be at 7:30, then it got moved to 8-ish, then it started about 8:20. Website crashed, streams were all over the place. Jim Irsay, Chris Ballard introducing interim head coach, which we all expected, Jeff Saturday. Immediately upon Jim Irsay taking a seat at that press conference, there was a buzz around the sports world. And most of it was, what is Jim saying? And I thought, as somebody who knows Jim a little bit better than everybody else, I feel like.
For sure.
I feel like I've been very. See if this thing turns on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? We sound good?
Yep.
I think I have been very fortunate to have the opportunity to get to know this man. Whenever I got arrested for a public intoxication for an alleged event, the cops have their story, I have mine. It was really at that moment that Jim Irsay and I started chit-chatting much more. When I was young, when I was a rookie, Jim Irsay would come down to practice in his golf cart, and he would say, "What's up to Adam Vinatieri?" I'd get a quick, "How you doing?" And then he would keep it moving and go talk to the people that are much more important to the team than I was. Remember, that was the Peyton Manning, Jeff Saturday, Gary Brackett, Joseph Adai, Ryan Deem, that team that you have heard about, Dallas Clark, the team that was great for a long time that we talked about, and we will talk about here soon. He had other things to talk about. When I get in trouble, I felt like Jim felt obligated to get to know me a little bit better because of the troubles and the demons that he had battled in the past. So from that point forward, anytime he would come to practice, he would make it a point to come say hello to me, and we would literally have 25, 30-minute conversations on the sideline before he would inevitably talk to the team about whatever the message was that he wanted to send. What I learned through those conversations with this fucking guy is he is an incredibly deep thinker. This is a fucking hippie who happens to be the owner of the Indianapolis Colts. Whenever he started tweeting, everybody would be like, "This guy's fucking lost his mind." He might have found it at certain different times, but what he's trying to say is a message. The way he says the message is different because he considers himself an artist. He's fucking friends with Mellencamp and McCartney. He has 100 songs that he's written already. He likes using his words and the way he says things a little bit differently than how everybody else says it, but guess what? He's a billionaire. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. So I understand why everybody thought he was off his rocker yesterday at the press conference with the thing he was saying. I'm going to try to break down what I think Jim saying was getting through. So let's run the first quote that certainly made its rounds on the internet.
"We're the fourth winningest franchise in the league since 2000. All right, that means in the upper quartile of winners, we're in the top quartile of that upper quartile."
What is Jim saying?
That's a great question, boys, and you weren't the only ones asking that question. You start doing some quick math now. Whenever he said, we have the fourth most winning percentage in the last 22 years in the NFL, how come everybody seems to forget that? Then he starts going, what's the fucking math? How many teams we got? 32 teams. Well, Jesus, you start doing some math. What's a quarter of that? Well, it's about 8. Well, fuck, we're in the top half of that, aren't we? We're in the top half of the top quartile. Are you talking about everything? And Jim Irsay says, that's what I'm going to tell him. I'm going to tell him he was in the top quartile of the top quartile, and that's what the fuck we are. What Jim Irsay was trying to let you know is, hey, put a little respect on this program and this organization's name. Although things might have been ugly here over the last few weeks, and this team has not looked good, and we just lost to the Patriots in embarrassing and abysmal fashion, and we fired our coach in the middle of the season for the first time in 25 years. This ain't how we are a fucking winning organization. So much so, we're in the top. Okay, if you're going to do it, we're in the top of the top of the top. So go ahead and get off our dicks. Let's go to the next quote from Jim Irsay last night.
I'm glad he doesn't have any NFL experience. I'm glad he hasn't learned the fear that's in this league. That's because it's tough for all our coaches. They're afraid. They go to analytics, and it gets difficult. I mean, he doesn't have all that. He doesn't have that fear, and there was no other candidate. We were fortunate that he was available, and he has tons of experience. He knows this game inside and out.
What is Jim saying?
Great question, boys. A lot of people on the internet were asking the same damn question. He's happy he has no experience? Why would you want somebody that has no experience to be the head coach of the team that's worth billions and billions of dollars? I think what he's referring to is conversations that he has probably had with Frank and other owners, with conversations they've had with their coaches, when their coaches make these decisions that are seemingly so fucking stupid in situational awareness. Jim says, well, the reason why they're doing it is because they're being told that these stats are doing this, and then they have scars from previous decisions decisions that they've made that affect current decisions that are being made. And then he started weighing in those things, and people aren't making the decisions that they actually have a gut feeling for. Instead, they're opting out to utilize other things as an excuse for the decisions that they're making. And we see across the board. People go for it on things. People don't go for it on things. It's because the analytics are playing for both teams. And Jim Irsay said Jeff Saturday, he's going to have analytics, but this motherfucker ain't scared to make a decision just yet. Now, after he makes 5 bad ones and he feels like he's going to get fired like a lot of other coaches have, will he change the way he thinks? Yes. Does Jeff have a lot of experience? He knows the game inside and out? Of course he does. Motherfucker was a center. We have a center on our show every single week. Right. The center has to know basically everything that the fucking quarterback has to know. Doesn't have to make the throws, thank God, because he nor Jeff could fucking do that. But they have to know every coverage. They have to know every blitz. They have to know everything that's going on. They have to be able to communicate it to the rest of the offensive line and sometimes the fucking quarterback. Who's his quarterback? Peyton Manning, most cerebral quarterback on earth. Who is his center? Tag team and alongside of him, Jeff Saturday, literally since the beginning. So I think what Jim Irsay was saying is, yeah, he might not have coached, but his experience in the game is pretty fucking vast. We've been able to see him do incredible things in this sport. Why wouldn't I want this guy? And there was no other candidate available unless I was going to hire from within, which I wasn't. Have you seen this team? They stink. There was nobody else available. I bring him in. He's an interim coach for us. He knows the shoe. He's in the Ring of Honor. I trust him. I like him. And maybe he'll be a great head coach in the future. That's what Jim was saying. Next quote.
You want to bet against this guy? Put your money down, people. Love to see it. Love to see it.
Yeah, I know this guy. Okay, this guy fucking wins. Now we had to get rid of him. He went to the Green Bay Packers. It wasn't fantastic. Still made the Pro Bowl there. But if you want to bet against Jeff Saturday, I'm cool with that. You know, because the NFL owners were trying to do the same goddamn thing whenever the CBA was up just 12 years ago. They were trying to bet against Jeff Saturday. And what Jeff Saturday do? Walked into the negotiation room, put his hand across the table and say, let's put our swords aside. Let's go ahead and get a deal done. Jeff Saturday, allegedly the reason why the last, not this current CBA, the last CBA got done. He actually cut a promo at a press conference that ended the lockout, that people were going broken and that were potentially going to miss games because of Jeff Saturday, and those baby blue eyes were allegedly the reason why a deal got done. Jim Irsay's seen Jeff on the field. He's seen him in the locker room. He's seen him in the fucking boardroom, and it seems like Jeff has always had success. Now, that CBA was not fantastic for the players. No, I do not know. There was a lot of things that were wrong in that, but I don't think they would have ever been right. But if it wasn't for Jeff, a deal wouldn't get done. And I think that's what Jim Irsay was alluding to. Let's go to the next quote.
No, the game is not different. We don't build rockets to go to Mars.
Yes.
We're not nuclear scientists. That is none of our jobs here. It's a very simple jobs that we do here.
What is Jim Irsay?
Great question, boys, and I know a lot of people are saying that on the internet. And you know, Jim Irsay has a weird fascination with Mars. Whenever he joined us, he actually knew the exact miles from planet Earth to Mars, and he told me that by the time I'm 80, I'm probably going to be able to do a show on Mars. He said, I don't think I'll be able to live that long, brother. I think what he was alluding to here is, this is fucking football. Okay? Is Jeff Saturday equipped? Is he ready to do it? It's fucking football. We're not saving the world. We're not trying to send anybody to fucking Mars. We're not building rocket ships. At the end of the day, it's blocking, it's tackling, it's passing, it's setting, it's kicking, it's catching. It's those things. This isn't fucking rocket science. What are we even talking about? It's football, which leads to this quote from Jim Irsay.
I don't know how to make sausage. I don't know what goes into sausage. But I do know how to build a football team.
What is Jim Irsay?
Well, to allude to the point that we just made, I think what Jim was saying, like, we aren't building rocket ships. I'm not trying to fucking make sausage. This is literally all I've done my entire life is build a goddamn football team. Please have a little bit of appreciation for the resume that I've built, going back to the core towel conversation that we had at the very beginning of this thing. I don't know how to fight. If I was here trying to make you a sausage link and you had doubts, I would understand it. Okay, I would completely understand it. But we're talking about a fucking football team, and check my record. Those are facts. I can do that. Let's go to the next quote from Jim Irsay.
There is no problem of perception, except some of you guys make a problem of perception, but you need hits, so you got to do it. I understand. I do the same thing. I was a broadcast journalism major, too. I don't know. You guys ever held accountable to your editors bringing in and say, well, you wrote that stuff. It was all wrong. You're fired.
So he was talking about the Rooney Rule, I believe, with Jeff Saturday being a white man being hired. He also went on to talk about how Tony Dungy was the coach that actually took us to the Super Bowl, first African-American head coach going to Hall of Fame. He is a member of the Indianapolis Colts Ring of Honor. The coach immediately after Tony Dungy, the man that I got to play for, incredible legend who got ran out of town in Detroit.
That's right.
In absolute bullshit fashion.
Miss you.
Jim Caldwell was our head coach, and then Paisano Pagano comes in, then Frank Reich comes in. He said, but if the perception is that I, only hired a white guy to hire a white guy, the perception could be that if you would like to do that, because I'm a broadcast journalist, you got to get your clicks as well. I do believe that in the offseason, he's going to have to interview a lot of people, and I hope that there are as many candidates that are fantastic to become head coaches. I assume Jeff Saturday is hoping to become a head coach for the Indianapolis Colts whenever those interviews open up at the end of the season in this interim time is done. But I don't think Jim Irsay has shown at all a lack of willingness to hire an African-American coach. And I think that is, to Jim Irsay's point, you just got to go back and look at it. Now, I do believe it's a problem. I'm not saying the NFL doesn't have an issue with it. I think that what Brian Flores was suing for brought a spotlight to a situation that the NFL has. I hope it gets changed, and Jeff Saturday might be a good advocate for the change, because if Jeff Saturday, former player who does not have any NFL coaching experience, has not had to go pour coffee for, what do you do? Pour coffee, draw cards,
Right.
sleep in the office
Right.
after a 14, 15-year career getting paid millions and millions of dollars, and you're pouring coffee for a coach that fucking is, coached for 20 years but has done absolutely nothing in the NFL, and you're drawing up cards late night, you're scheming up things but probably aren't even going to get used, and you're getting paid like fucking $35,000. That's the proper way to go about becoming a head coach in the NFL. A lot of former players don't want to do that. Why? Because why the fuck would you want to do that if you just lived a life of being an NFL superstar? And I understand you got to love the game and have passion for the game, and being a coach in the NFL is not easy at all. I do believe you have to earn your stripes, but the way about going and getting head coaches in the NFL is basically an unfeasible thing for any former player to do as a human. Mentally, physically, why would they want to sign up for that unless, it was their dream job to become an NFL head coach? So if Jeff has success without having to do all that bullshit, look for a lot of other players that have potentially fit the same mold of human as Jeff Saturday. Incredible leader, obviously great resume, a good communicator, a super positive guy who's not scared to hold people accountable. Look for other players to get those head coaching roles, and whenever that happens, I think that'll obviously up the amount of minority head coaches in the NFL, which is good for everybody because it makes the game a lot better. Let's go to the next quote here from Jim Irsay.
Certain people just have it. They have it. And you see it when you know it.
What is Jim Irsay saying?
Well, I kind of fucked this one up. It's supposed to be you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
He said you see it when you know it. So you flip those backwards. I think he did fuck up there. But I guess you could see it when you know it, or know it when you see it. Mm-hmm. That's what he's talking about. And I don't think he's just talking about in the head coaching world, although this is what he was chatting about whenever he saw in Jeff Saturday being a head coach. And you heard Chris Ballard talk about how in 2019 we tried to hire him as offensive line coach. 2020 we tried to hire him, and then obviously now we try to hire him. So I think Jim Irsay has been pushing for Jeff Saturday to be a coach for the Indianapolis Colts for some time now. This was obviously his first opportunity in 25 years to hire an interim head coach. He figured Jeff Saturday would be the perfect one for that. And I honestly believe that if you just listen to the message as opposed to the words, I don't think Jim Irsay had as big of a fucking clown show as everybody is trying to make it. Yeah. He's just talking in his own words. And I think he has faith that Jeff's going to be good, but I have no idea how this whole thing goes with the roster that they have. Jeff Saturday having no clue about the offense. Jeff Saturday knowing basically nobody that's on that team. He knows the whole building. He's never been an NFL head coach. I don't think what Jim Irsay said last night was such a catastrophe like everybody else thought, but I do think this is going to be quite a struggle. Jeff Saturday said he was drinking from a fire hydrant trying to figure some things out